You'd be surprised how quiet the deli section gets after 10 p.m. Most people think of Walmart as chaotic, loud, flashing lights, screaming kids, carts squeaking like haunted house props. But when the store starts to empty, when the rush dies down and only a few stragglers remain, the place changes. It feels like something else lives in the walls, something that only wakes up when no one's watching. I never liked the late shifts, but I took them. Bills don't care if you're tired, and no one else wanted to mop up cold meat juice at midnight. I didn't mind the job too much. Slicing ham, rotating trays, cleaning surfaces. It was work. Simple, repetitive, safe. Well, at least it used to feel safe. Samantha worked the same shift. She was off. Too energetic for the graveyard hours, always finding reasons to be near me. Sometimes she'd accidentally brush her hand against mine while reaching for the slicer or make suggestive comments while wrapping meat. Flirting, mostly. Creepy, clingy flirting. I tried to be polite, said I wasn't looking for anything. She didn't get the hint. She had this look in her eye when I talked to her, like I was the last glass of water in a desert. And even when I avoided her, she'd still hang around, talking about how her daughter was a little monster and how she needed a break. I always thought it was just tired single mom talk. Everyone vents now and then. I never pressed. When the first complaint came in about the food, we all laughed it off. Probably someone left their sandwich out too long. But then more came. A lot more. People getting sick, vomiting, fevers, diarrhea. The manager called in a health inspector, and we were told to shut everything down until further notice. I remember that day too clearly. We all stood around in our stained white coats, waiting to hear what was going on. The inspector didn't look like he wanted to say anything out loud. He had this stiff posture, pale face, like he'd seen something that didn't belong in this world. And then the store was shut down entirely. No explanation to the public, just closed until further notice. A week later, I saw it on the news. Human remains discovered in Walmart deli meats. I gagged when I read it. I had been slicing that meat, stocking it, selling it. I was elbow deep in it some nights, rearranging trays, wrapping leftovers. I kept scrubbing my hands even when they weren't dirty. I could still smell it, even when I showered, even when I sleep. I couldn't sleep. Then Samantha started texting me. At first it was normal stuff. Hey, miss working with you. Hope you're okay. Let's hang out soon. Then the messages got weirder. You were always so sweet to me. You understand me better than anyone. I don't think you ever realized how perfect we'd be together. I had to get rid of the distractions, Josh. You'll see. I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen, stomach turning, heart racing. What did she mean? Distractions? The next day, her daughter Tina was reported missing. That little girl used to come in sometimes, sitting at a corner booth in the back of the deli while Samantha worked. Curly hair, big brown eyes, quiet. She'd color in books while sipping juice. I remember once she showed me a drawing she made of a big house with a tree and a stick figure family. I smiled and said it was beautiful, and now she was gone. The texts from Samantha kept coming, more desperate. Don't ignore me, Josh. I need to talk to you. She was holding me back. You don't understand what it's like. Now there's nothing in our way. I finally blocked her number. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. Let the cops figure it out. I just wanted it out of my head. But the nightmare wasn't over. A few days later, 2 detectives showed up at my apartment. Their faces were tight, voices grim. They asked me to come in for questioning. I wasn't under arrest, they said, just part of the investigation. I sat in a cold, gray room for over 2 hours while they told me what they found. DNA tests confirmed that the remains in the deli meat, yes, the human flesh, belonged to Tina. I vomited into a trash can. They found parts of her in the freezer, mixed into other meats, wrapped up, labeled, like she was just another cut on the menu. They raided Samantha's home and uncovered journals, Facebook posts, photos. She documented everything, not in some wild code or cryptic language, plain, horrible detail. She wrote about how much she resented her daughter, how Tina ruined her life, how she kept her from being happy, how she always cried when Samantha tried to bring a man home. One entry read, "If Tina wasn't here, maybe Josh would see me, really see me." Her Facebook was filled with venom, long rants about being a single mom, posts saying she wished she'd never had that demon. Friends had commented, joked with her, assumed she was just blowing off steam. No one ever thought she meant it. but she did. She confessed everything, said she'd done it for love. Said she thought once Tina was gone, she and I could finally be together, that I'd come to her, that I'd understand why it had to happen. She said I was her light in the darkness. I didn't know what to say to the detectives. I told them the truth, that I never encouraged her, never spent time with her outside work, never even considered anything more than basic coworker politeness. They believed me, but that didn't make it any easier. I still had to testify, had to sit there and watch her smile at me like we shared a secret. Had to listen to the horrible details, how she did it, when she did it, how she brought parts of her own child into our workplace and hid them among the stock, how she fed them to people, how she fed them to me. I don't eat meat anymore. I don't sleep much either. I moved to a new town, started over. I work at a bookstore now. No sharp tools, no late shifts, no deli counters. Sometimes I still see her face, the way her eyes lit up when she looked at me. The way she looked through me like I was hers already. They say she's getting life without parole. I hope so. But sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, certain I heard a voice whisper my name from the hallway. And when I go to check, there's nothing there. They always say night shifts are the worst, not because of the work itself, but because of what crawls out when most of the world's asleep. I didn't mind it at first. Less customer traffic, quiet aisles, just me and the buzz of the fluorescent lights. But lately, I'd been feeling watched. It started with little things. A man I didn't recognize would always seem to be in the same part of the store when I was working. Electronics, produce, seasonal. No matter where I was assigned, he was there pretending to browse. I thought I was imagining it at first. He never bought anything, just wandered, always within sight, always with this blank, too still expression. The other night, he stood in the frozen section, staring into a door that reflected me from halfway down the aisle. He wasn't looking at the food. He was watching me through the glass. I tried to shake it off, but goosebumps crawled up my arms like frostbite. I told my manager, who shrugged it off and told me to keep an eye out. That was the wrong answer. It was raining the night it happened, one of those cold, early spring storms that soaked everything to the bone. My shift ended at 1 a.m. I slipped out the employee exit in the back, pulling my hood over my head, clutching my bag like a shield. The parking lot was mostly empty, just rows of gleaming puddles and flickering light poles. I remember checking over my shoulder, like always. No one was there. The air smelled like wet asphalt and something else, something metallic. I shook the thought away, got in my car, locked the doors, and drove off into the night. The drive home was quiet. I kept the radio low, mostly static, my nerves still buzzing. I lived alone in a third-floor apartment at the edge of town. Not a bad place, but nothing special. I parked behind the building, dashed up the stairs, unlocked the door, and shut it behind me with a sigh of relief. I tossed my keys in the dish by the door, kicked off my shoes, and headed to the kitchen for a glass of water. That's when I heard it. A creak. I froze. It came from the hallway, just outside the bathroom. My heart stopped. I told myself the floorboards were old, that buildings made noises, that I was just tired, but then I saw the shadow. It moved. I didn't even scream. I couldn't. My legs turned to ice. He stepped out slowly, like he wasn't in a rush. The same man, pale, calm, empty eyes like a mannequin. He held something in his hand, a rope. "Sarah," he said, like we were old friends. I turned and bolted. He lunged after me, but I had a head start. I flung the front door open, screaming now, pounding down the hall, banging on neighbors' doors. Lights flickered on. Somewhere, a dog barked. Behind me, he didn't follow. He knew it was over. The police came within minutes. I stood outside in the rain in my socks, shaking, trying to describe him while hugging myself tight. They searched my apartment. He was gone. But they found the rope, a pocket knife, duct tape, and a photo of me, sleeping. The picture had been taken from outside my bedroom window. They told me he must have hidden in the back of my car, waited until I drove home, snuck out while I was in the kitchen. Said I was lucky. He hadn't counted on my door being so close to the neighbors, or me reacting so fast. For a while, I didn't sleep. I quit my job at Walmart the next day, couldn't bear to go back. I started applying anywhere else. Coffee shops, bookstores, anything with people and daylight. Weeks passed. I was starting to feel normal again. My new job at a small cafe kept me busy. I kept all my doors locked, windows covered. I checked my car before getting in, every time. Then, one morning, I turned on the news while sipping my coffee. Breaking news. Suspected serial killer caught. My stomach dropped. They showed his face. Same man, those dead, flat eyes. His name was Kyle Morton. He'd been living under a fake identity for years. Wanted in multiple states. Suspected in the disappearances of at least 7 women across the country. The police found their belongings in a storage unit he'd rented under another alias. Pictures, jewelry, pieces of clothing. I almost threw up. He was charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder. All women, all young, all working night shifts. My name wasn't mentioned, but I knew. I was supposed to be number 8. They said he'd kept meticulous records. Stalked each victim for weeks, sometimes months. Planned every detail. Waited for the right moment. Except with me. I'd broken his pattern. I turned the TV off and sat there in silence, the mug trembling in my hand. The relief hit me like a wave, and then the terror came back, sharper than before. What if I hadn't heard him? What if I hadn't run? What if I had ignored the shadow? What if I still have nightmares? I see his face in crowds, in reflections, in dark corners. I move to a new place, somewhere with a security system and neighbors who check in. I changed my number. I stopped using social media. But sometimes late at night, I still check the closets, under the bed, behind the shower curtain, just in case, because monsters don't hide under your bed. They ride in your backseat. You start to notice strange things working retail long enough. Customers who mumble to themselves in the aisles, kids that stare too long at blank shelves, people who linger but never buy anything. You brush it off. You have to. Working at Walmart's like that. Routines, repetition, and the occasional jolt of weird that keeps your skin just a little too tight. I worked the night shift, stocking shelves and organizing the back room. I liked the quiet. No crowd, no screaming babies, just me and the hum of the lights overhead. But a few weeks ago, something started bothering me. Items kept going missing, little things at first, then stranger, more specific stuff. Heavy-duty duct tape, industrial-grade cleaners, a couple sets of kitchen knives from the housewares aisle. None of us thought much of it at first. Shrink happens. Theft is just part of the job. But then it kept happening, and the weird part was, these weren't the kinds of things people usually stole. They weren't flashy or expensive, just practical. Silent. Our supervisor Donna finally had enough and pulled up the security footage. I was standing next to her when she found it. A man in a dark hoodie, face partially obscured by sunglasses and a surgical mask, slipping items under his coat and walking straight out the front doors like he owned the place. He didn't run. He didn't hesitate. He knew exactly where the cameras were and how to avoid the blind spots. But not well enough, I guess. Anyone recognize him? Donna asked during the next shift meeting, pausing the video on the clearest frame we had of the guy. A few of us exchanged glances, but no one said anything. I stared at the screen, something prickling at the back of my mind. He looked familiar. I just couldn't place it. A few days passed. More things went missing. Bleach, garbage bags, a small hatchet, a crowbar. It was starting to feel less like shoplifting and more like someone building a murder kit. Then one night, Donna called the whole staff into the break room. Her face was pale. The cops were there, standing beside her. One of them held up a photo. It was Rick. Rick, who worked stock with me. Rick, who always volunteered for closing. Rick, who talked about how he used to work in finance and how this job was temporary. Rick, who always wore gloves even when it wasn't cold, who never shared much, who asked too many questions about where we kept the chemicals. They arrested him that night. Found him behind the store, sitting in his beat-up sedan, writing something in a notebook. Turns out Rick had been coming in on his days off, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, slipping in through the side entrance, stealing what he needed. His disguise wasn't even good, just enough to make you second-guess yourself. He didn't think anyone would notice. And honestly, if Donna hadn't checked the footage, maybe no one would have. The cops searched his apartment. That's when it got worse. They found blueprints of a house, notes, phone numbers, schedules. A name circled over and over again: Martin Kellerman. We didn't know who that was, but the cops did. He was Rick's former boss from his last job, an upscale investment firm in the same city. Rick used to make six figures, traveled to Europe, wore designer suits. The guy had everything. Until the company hit rough waters and Martin, his manager, cut staff to save what was left of the business. Rick didn't take it well. He spiraled, lost everything. His car, his apartment, his fiancée. Ended up working with us at Walmart for $10 an hour, stocking shelves next to the people he used to walk past without a glance. We weren't just coworkers to him. We were his fall from grace. But Martin was the one who pushed him off the ledge. They found emails Rick had sent to him, dozens. Some begging, some threatening, some just long rants about betrayal and how Martin had ruined a king. There were texts too, phone calls, so many that Martin filed for a restraining order. The cops said he was terrified, had security cameras installed at his house, slept with a bat under his bed, all because Rick couldn't let go. And then they found the journal. It was in a locked drawer in Rick's bedroom. Handwritten, page after page. No dates, no headers, just obsessive planning. Details, sketches, a step-by-step breakdown of how he'd lure Martin out, subdue him, and make him disappear. The stolen supplies were listed too, all accounted for. Duct tape, cleaner, trash bags, knives. He'd even practiced some parts. He wrote about it like rehearsing a play, how fast he could tape someone's mouth shut, how hard he'd have to swing the crowbar to knock someone unconscious. It made my skin crawl. He called it cleansing. He wrote that Martin had taken everything from him, that the only way to get his life back was to balance the scales, that his suffering had to be answered for. We were just background noise to him, the store, the job, me. Just placeholders in the story of his downfall. I kept thinking about the quiet conversations we'd had while organizing pallets, how he talked about being wasted potential, how he'd said once, half joking, some people deserve what's coming to them. I thought he was just bitter. I didn't know he meant blood. Martin never got hurt. The police got to Rick just in time. But the part that haunts me is how close it came. If Donna hadn't checked the footage, if the cops had come a week later, if Rick had gone through with it, I still work at Walmart, but I can't walk down the chemical aisle without my stomach twisting. Every time I see someone in a hoodie, I look twice. 3 times. I start seeing Rick in people's faces, in customers, in coworkers. I start thinking about how you can't ever really know someone, how they can smile while thinking about murder, how they can talk to you like a friend while planning to erase someone else. Sometimes I wonder what he would have done if he hadn't been caught. If Martin was only the beginning, if we were next.